الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد والثناء لرب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا والشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم جميعا. During the month of Ramadan, when the month first approaches us, it's very interesting that the first couple of days, it's a lot of excitement. The month of Ramadan is approaching. We have to sight the new moon. When the month starts, especially in the summer months, it's a little more difficult. We have to try to get used to fasting and the heat and the long days. Then it seems like so quickly it goes by, and then it's the nights of Qadr, and we are staying awake and worshiping and trying to take advantage of the opportunity that's before us. And now we are approaching the end of this blessed month. And it reminds us of what Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam has said about opportunity. Al-fursatu tamurru marra as-sahab. Opportunity passes like the passing of a cloud. It's going to be there, it's going to pass by, it's going to be gone. If you don't seize the opportunity, then you lose the opportunity. We look at this month as an opportunity. And sometimes you hear people, they complain about the difficulty of this month, the difficulty of fasting, the difficulty of the long days, the difficulty of the heat. And obviously there are people who are fasting even longer days than we are. And so we can keep that in mind. But the whole idea of why we fast during this month, as we have in our hadith, that it's a way, one of the reasons, one of the philosophy, it's a way for me to remind myself of what is it like to be hungry? What is it like to be in this difficult state? It wasn't that it was meant to simply be easy. It was meant to feel a little bit of difficulty, to experience some difficulty. In the amount that what we can handle, that is part of the purpose. Of course, it's very interesting, some of the Maraj scholars, they mention that, for example, Ayatollah Hadavi Tehrani mentions that if it's difficult for young children, that they're even allowed to drink a little bit of water and continue their fast. That it's permissible that while a person is fasting during the month of Ramadan, in order not to lose the barakah of fasting, to have a sip of water and to continue their fast. And this is one way that we can encourage, especially the younger ones, who maybe sometimes it's difficult, or it may be extremely difficult sometimes for them fasting. We should also remember one of the things I like to think about is, in the words of Hazrat Maryam, peace be upon her, she talks about some things that she wished she had done more in this world. This is the world of test, this is the world of opportunity, and this is where we really have a chance to write our own destiny. The night of destiny is all about that. This is an opportunity for me to take the pen of Qadr and destiny, and for me to write myself how I'm successful that I want to be. But one of the things that she says is interesting. She says that I wish I had done a few more things in this world. One of them is fasting during the summer. That I wish that I had done that more. And sometimes we don't do that willingly, but sometimes we have, a kind of tawfiq that's forced upon us. And so that is another opportunity that we can look at. As they say, you can look at the glass half empty or half full, One of the things we can look at is that it's a special opportunity. There's a little more difficulty during these months, during this time especially, but it may be also another opportunity. We remember during this month, especially hopefully on the night of Qadr, on the night of destiny, the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalullah Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif. We know that it's not that we are waiting for him, but that he is waiting for us. We know that if we were prepared, if we were where we need to be as believers, that is one of the things that will hasten the dhuhur and the appearance and coming of the Imam of our time. So we look at this month as an opportunity to prepare ourselves. So every person, they have a struggle, a difficulty, something that they may be a challenge for them in their life. So this month we look at as an opportunity through me to work on my challenge, so that I am one piece of the puzzle that's more ready and prepared for the coming of the Imam of our time. We read the dua iftitah. I'm sure a lot of you have read the dua and think about what it means to be prepared, what it means to know that that time is near. That while some people, they think that it's very far away, we believe that that time is close and near. يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. وَعَلَيْكُمْ السَّلَامُ. Sometimes in this process of waiting for our Imam, or awaiting him, or preparing to become close to him, sometimes it may happen that people become hopeless, or they become distant, or they forget how important it is to maintain that spiritual connection with their Imam. The example, as it mentions in hadith, of the sun behind the clouds, that you still reap those benefits from the sun, even if it's a cloudy day. That even without the sun, you may not be able to live. So it becomes a necessity, but sometimes it becomes difficult. There was a story about one of the scholars, the narrators of hadith. He has a place that's holy place where he's buried in the south of Iran, in a city called Ahwaz. And his name was Ali ibn Mahziyar. He was a person who was a scholar, and him and his father came to Islam. They were previously Christian. They came to Islam, or at least his father was previously Christian. They came to Islam and they become very educated, knowledgeable, scholarly, companions of the Imam of their time. And it's narrated one tradition about him and his desire to meet the Imam. His hope, his wish to have one opportunity to meet the living Imam, to meet Imam Mahdi Ajjalullah Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif. And it was his custom every year he would go to Hajj. So he travels, he goes to Hajj. And he hopes, because we have in one of the things that are mentioned in our ahadith, that during the time of Hajj, this is where the Imam of the age is. He is in doing the pilgrimage of Hajj, or he's in Mecca. And so he went to Hajj every year with the hope that maybe this year I'll experience something. Maybe I'll meet my Imam. Maybe I'll have some encounter. Maybe I can embrace him. Maybe I can talk to him. Maybe I can pledge my allegiance to him. And he went, and it didn't happen. The next year he goes, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year. It says that 20 years he goes to Hajj. Every time he has this hope in his heart that he's going to meet the Imam. This was one of the driving motivations for him. Finally, it got to the point where he started to lose hope. He said, if the Imam wanted to meet me by now, he would have done so. Maybe I'm not worthy to meet the Imam. Maybe I should just stop going to Hajj every year. And so he thought to himself, you know what, next year I'm not going to continue. If I was worthy to see the Imam, I would have seen him by now. 20 years I've been going, every year, waiting, nothing happened. Finally, he has a dream, and in this dream it tells him to go to Hajj this year. And there's a possibility. And so, he doesn't want to miss out on this opportunity. So he goes to Hajj again in that year. And this time he goes with his caravan. They take a journey. They stop at some of the holy places along the way. And he performs, his Hajj, and still nothing had happened yet. Finally, some of the people from the caravan are going or leaving, and he says, maybe I wait a few more days. He doesn't want to give up just yet. So eventually he's again praying or doing worship, and he meets a man. He's very handsome. He's dressed, in very clean clothes. And he has a conversation with him. He says, asks him who he is. He said, do you know this Ali ibn Mahziyan? He said, yes, that's me. He got very excited. And he said, then you're a very lucky person. Your Imam wants to meet you. And so he's very excited. And imagine that someone comes and tells you that Imam Mahdi wants to meet you. And so he goes with this man who was one of the companions or servants, and they take a journey. He gets all of his belongings, and they begin to journey out into the desert. And they're journeying and going for some time. It got very late, and they stopped to pray. And he said, we have to make Salatul Layl. We have to stop and pray the night prayer. There's so much to be said about the importance of that. But he says, we'll stop and make Salatul Layl. They make Salatul Layl. They make the night prayer. And then after that, they also make, it becomes morning. They pray the morning prayer, and they continue. Finally, they get to this area where there's some mountains, and there's a tent there. And he tells Ali ibn Mahziyan to wait here, let me go and get permission for you. He goes to seek permission from the Imam to allow him to enter. He allows him finally to enter. And he's sitting before the Imam. He's thinking to himself, you can imagine, what do I say? I have all of my life, I've been waiting for this moment. I've been thinking about this moment. It's very interesting, the conversation that it says happens between him and the Imam. First of all, one of the things that the Imam asks him is, why did it take you so long to come here? He says, we've been waiting laylan wa naharan. Night and day I've been waiting for you. What took you so long? as probably any of us would have said in this situation, well, my Mawla, I didn't have anyone to show me how to find you. I didn't have any way to get here. How was I supposed to find you here in this secluded place, in this distant place? He says, no, this is not the reason. And he begins to explain to him the reasons which became barriers from preventing him from meeting his Imam. Everything that we do, it has some effect. Every single thing. So in between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if there's some distance, there are some people who are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the A'imma. One of the reasons why we have the concept of tawassul and seeking the intercession through the Imams is because of their nearness, their position and place in nearness to Allah. Sometimes in our own life, there are things that we do which bring us closer to Allah, and there are things which we can do which send us further away. Every good act, every fast, every positive thing can take us a step closer to our goal. And then negative things, sins, are things which push us away from our goal. And he says to him that he mentions 3 things which were barriers which prevented him. Not that there was no one to guide him. The resources are available. We say right now that we don't have a way to our Imam. Is there not resources available? Are there not scholars available? In the information age that we live, do we have any excuse not to know our religion? We have none. The first thing he mentions to him, he says, كثرة أموال, the abundance of your wealth. The fact that you have so much wealth you've accumulated, this is one of the things that has become a barrier for you. Now, the idea of wealth itself, well, someone may say, what about Prophet Sulaiman? He had so much abundance of wealth. We have this concept that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he explains to us that when someone has more than what they need, they actually have someone else's. Because there's someone who doesn't have. So when someone has much more than what is their need, their necessity is this much, they have this much. It means that this portion does not actually belong to them. It belongs to someone else. So they should find means to make sure that those who need get with receive this portion. It's one of the reasons why we have the whole Zakat al-Fitr, right? To help the needy Muslims. And one of the important things about that, it should go to the local needy Muslims. If there are followers who are needy Muslims in the area, then they should receive. If every place is doing that, then it's creating a little bit of balance. So he said, your accumulation of your wealth, this has become a barrier. The second thing that he tells him is about Silatul Rahim. It's about maintaining the family ties, maintaining the connection with family. You know, one of the, in life we'll be tested. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Mulk, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. He tests us, He will test you, try you. What is the reason for this trial? The same as when you go to school, you have certain tests that a person takes so he can graduate, so he can go to the next level, so he can pass. It says so that we can see who's going to be the best when it comes to their actions. Well, there has to be some way to know. Even if Allah knows, He puts the test so that it can actually happen. We have no excuse. He gives us a test. He gives us the month of Ramadan as a test. He gives us other things as a test to see if we want to be those people who are ahsanu amal, who are the best in our actions. It's very easy for a person when you meet a stranger, to be nice to them. You don't know them, they don't know you, they don't test you. But if you live with someone, if you interact with this person, if they get, as we say, under your skin, they bother you, then at this time, you find out about yourself. This is a test. So because of the fact that even families test the person maybe more than any other person, maybe more than any other group of people, any other stranger would not bother something as much as maybe a family member can. But with that, still it says you're not allowed to completely break off ties with them. And in America, you can divorce your parents, you can separate from your siblings, but in Islam we cannot do this. You have to maintain good relations, even with people who may test you a lot, who may make you things feel difficult for you. The next thing that he says to him is about how they treat the weakest of you. The weakest or the poorest in iman and faith in your community or amongst you, how you treat them. This is one of the important things. I remember, and not just, this is not limited to how we treat someone who is poor, poor in the sense of money and monetary values. But maybe someone is weak in the sense of their faith and their iman. When we see someone, for example, who has a struggle with their religion, with their faith, maybe they're not practicing as well as I am, or maybe I'm doing one thing better than they are. That may simply mean that they don't have the same test as I have. Sometimes what happens is a mu'min, a believer, he may look at that person and say, well, this person, it's not a good person. Oh, their salat is like this, or they look like this, or they dress like this. Simply because that test that they have, they do not have. But maybe the test that they're facing, maybe they're facing a test of listening to backbiting. Maybe they're facing a test of how they treat their family or their children, etc., or paying their khums, or whatever the case may be. They may be facing a different test. So sometimes the test that people face is different. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if someone is going through an apparent test, that we should disregard them. When we look at how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when we look at how he was and how he dealt with the people, we're talking about an age of ignorance, right? The Jahiliyyah age, where things which are unspeakable were prevalent and normal in society. We're talking about how someone came to educate all of these people, all of humanity. So when the Prophet comes to educate all of humanity, every Prophet, obviously there are people there who have weaknesses. Does the Prophet come and say, well, all of the perfect people come with me. If you have a weakness, you go away. No. He comes to help those, especially those who have a weakness. So the people who have weaknesses, even in their faith, they're not to be shunned away. They actually should be invited so that they can be reformed, so that they can be refined, so that they can be educated, so that they can be helped. Ali ibn Masyari realizes that even he himself, maybe as a scholar or as an accomplished individual, and the first thing he does is he says istighfar, and he says astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh, because we are never safe from falling into the traps of shaitan. We can never think at any moment that I am good enough, I am mu'min enough, I am accomplished enough. that idea or that thought itself is one of the seeds of shaitan in order for you not to continue to progress and move forward. If a person wants to be successful and progress and move forward, then he has to always realize that he has room to improve. I love the hadith from Imam Rida alayhi salam. He says, when you see someone, think that this person may be better than me. When you see someone, think maybe they're better than me. Don't think maybe they're wrong for this or bad for this. Think maybe they're more mu'min than me. Maybe they've done more thawab than me. It reminds a person about his place, how it makes him humble. It makes him remember that he's not ma'soom, he has shortcomings. And so it reminds him how to deal with other people. So the best of actions in this month, as we know, are the actions of doing our obligations in this month, doing our whatever is our wajibat. And we've also been reminded to constantly seek istighfar and ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unless we are ma'soom and perfect, and even when we look at all of the examples of the ma'soomeen, they're doing istighfar and teaching us and educating us about the importance of this. That no matter how much we accomplish, even in this month, it should never abandon the idea of asking Allah to forgive us. Wa alaikum assalam. It's one of the secrets for our success. I'll close with this. A group of students came from the States, a group of people visited Iran, and they had a chance to visit a lot of the different ulama. They had a chance to visit a lot of the holy places. And during this time, one of the great scholars and mystics and urafa of our era, Ayatollah Muhammad Taqi Behjat, rahmatullah alayh, he was still alive. And he used to lead prayers in the, just not too far from the shrine of the sister of Imam Rida alayhi salam, Hazrat Masuma. Salamullah alayha. So, a group of students had the opportunity to sit with him and ask him some questions. Wa alaikum assalam. One of the questions that they asked was about spirituality and how to achieve the highest levels of spirituality. And because they heard of all of the karamat and phenomenal acts that he had performed and the type of person that he was and the type of level that he reached. And he explained to them one thing. He said, they're asking for the, like the secret recipe. When something tastes really good, it's really, well, how do you make this? What's the secret sauce? What's the secret ingredient that I can be successful like you? He said simply, Gunah nakun. Gunah nakun. He said, don't commit sin. Do not commit sin. He said, every time you commit a sin, you knock yourself back 1,000 steps. So if you imagine that there's this distance between man and Allah, and he's moving closer, trying to get close to Allah, then sometimes he keeps running back and forth. He keeps running forward and then he runs backwards. And he runs forward and he runs backwards. Sometimes he runs very far forward, like on the night of Qadr, or Salatul Layl, or kindness to parents. Some actions, they push him at a very high level, but sometimes he does things which send him right back. So, if you think about it, that's not a good way to progress, right? You would not go to school and say that, you know what, at the end of the semester I want to start over again. You would not start a job and move up in your profession and say, you know what, I want to go back to the bottom again. The idea of moving forward is becoming more successful. So when he told them, gunoh nakun, he meant that this is one of the most detrimental things to your success as a human being. And to stay away from this. And then he explained to them two things, and one of them we'll mention tonight. He said, he recommended, they asked what are recommendations for people who are living in America especially. He said one of the recommendations is to do istighfar every day. 70 times to do istighfar every day. If we have some burden on our shoulders, at least let's clean that slate on a daily basis and try to perfect ourselves again. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that success through the next few days that's left of this month. And we hope that more importantly, that we're able to maintain that spiritual level that we have achieved throughout the rest of the year, inshaAllah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.